Hi everyone, we are on our final day this week of Take 5. We're in Acts chapter 21. And here we see Paul arriving in Jerusalem. On his way, he gets to meet Philip, the evangelist, quite a cool title to have at an early stage. Philip was one of the original 7 deacons of the church. You read earlier in Acts about how they appointed people to be administrators or to help the sick, help the elderly. And Philip was one of these guys, but he was gifted as an evangelist. And there's many stories of Philip and his adventures. But he stays with Philip and he encounters 4 daughters, which I think is interesting. Philip had 4 daughters who all prophesied. So there's what a thumbs up for early female leadership, maybe, because we encounter many female leaders in Paul's journeys. Lydia, we encountered her earlier on in the chapters that we read this week, who became a leader of a church. And here we have the daughters of Philip who were prophetesses, who gave messages from God to others. As an interesting fact I read was that these daughters of Philip, they lived a very long life. And it's reported in ancient records that they were great champions of Jesus, and they were very useful in telling future generations what it was like in the early church, and the characters that they must have encountered in the early church, and what they were truly like, and how the early church worked. I just found that an interesting fact. Now we'll carry on with Paul's journey into Jerusalem, and he presents himself to the elders, to James, the leader of the church. Now James, remember, is the brother of Jesus, who has risen to the leadership of the Jerusalem church. And the elders, he encounters and meets them and presents himself to them and says, look, this is what I've done, this is why I've done it. I've gone around, I've shared the gospel, and great news, even the Gentiles are responding to faith. There are so many people that are coming to faith. It's brilliant out there. And the elders and the leaders of the early church are really encouraged by all of this. However, there is some rumours going around that Paul is not champion in Jewish laws. He's almost pulling people away from the traditions of the Jews. And while Paul can say, no, I don't, the elders and the leaders of the early church actually say, well, to prove those rumours wrong, why don't you connect yourself with these 4 guys who are going through a ritual at the temple, and because you're following the ritual as well, that will prove that you still honour and respect our true Jewish traditions. And interestingly, that Paul doesn't argue, doesn't say, no, you're wrong, or anything like that. He submits to the authority of the leaders. I just thought that was an interesting aspect of Paul's character, because Paul doesn't come across as a very humble man. But here, he is willing to humble himself and accept or submit to the authority of the early church leaders. And he goes through this ritual with these 4 other guys. Sadly, as the chapter progresses, we see that he is finally challenged and arrested, and all things start kicking off. But for that's for you to read. Carry on reading this chapter. But learn, I think, from this chapter, one of Paul's great lessons is that you might be a superstar for Jesus, but we all need a bit of humility. We all need to come under the authority of somebody, because ultimately we come under the authority of Christ, and we need to follow him on wherever he wants us to go, whatever he wants us to say, and the Holy Spirit will guide us in that. So thank you for listening this week. I hope it's been helpful, and come back next week for another Take 5. Bye for now.